Okay, let's just jump right in with a number that really frames this whole conversation. Get this, $24.3 trillion. That's the massive opportunity we're looking at in digital payments just a few years from now. I mean, it's an absolutely unprecedented moment for growth. But, and there's always a but, right? It comes with a pretty big catch.
And here's the catch. While that opportunity is just enormous, the cost of just standing still is, well, it's staggering. $57 billion. That's not for innovation. That's the projected cost per year just to keep the lights on for these old, aging payment systems. It's basically a giant anchor holding the entire industry back. So you see the tension, right? You've got this huge opportunity on one side and this crippling cost on the other. So the logical step is to modernize, to transform. Easy enough. Well, here's a reality check for you. A shocking 73% of financial institutions that have tried to transform their payments infrastructure have failed to see any real return on that investment. So what on earth is going on here? And that's really the core question we're going to tackle on this explainer. See, this isn't just about some new tech. It's about a fundamental shift in strategy. We're going to break down why all those past efforts have failed and what makes this new era, what we're calling Payments Modernization 3.0, so absolutely critical, right now.
First up, let's set the scene. The industry is at a major inflection point. We're talking about a defining moment where the old ways of doing things, they're just not going to cut it for the future.
So here's the heart of the challenge. The infrastructure that was built for a 9-to-5, Monday to Friday world is now being asked to perform in a 24/7, always-on digital economy. You throw in new regulations and customers who expect everything to be real-time, and you've got a system that is stretched to its absolute breaking point. Okay, so to really understand where we're going, we have to be honest about where we've been. Why have all those past attempts at modernization, the ones with that 73% failure rate, why have they fallen so short?
A good way to think about this is to compare payments architecture to city infrastructure. Payments 1.0, that was like building the very first local roads. They were foundational, sure, but they were all disconnected, siloed systems. Then came Payments 2.0. The idea was to fix this by building one giant central roundabout, a monolithic hub to connect everything. Sounds good in theory, right? But here's the problem. They built this thing before we invented superhighways or GPS. In our world, that's the cloud and APIs. So now, that giant roundabout is just a permanent, gridlocked traffic jam. The city, our financial system, just can't grow.
And look, this isn't just some abstract analogy. As industry analyst Alan Ning from Accenture puts it, those monolithic hubs from the 2.0 era have become the very source of the delay, stopping institutions from seeing any real benefit from their modernization efforts.
And this leads us to this vicious cycle. A staggering 80% of IT budgets are being eaten up just to run the bank, just maintaining these old, ridiculously complex systems. That leaves a tiny 20% for changing the bank, for actual innovation. You just can't build the future when all your resources are trapped preserving the past.
And what's the result of that budget crisis? Widespread paralysis. I mean, look at these numbers. Almost half the industry is just stuck in the planning phase. Another 45% is just talking about it, and only a tiny 7% have actually started to implement any real change. Everybody knows they need to move, but almost nobody has been able to.
And the reasons for this are systemic. The old model pretty much encouraged over-customizing everything, which of course led to brutal multi-year development cycles and massive budget blowouts. A lot of the time, the vendors themselves were struggling to modernize, which created huge bottlenecks. And then, on top of all that, there's a serious shortage of people with the right skills in cloud and API tech. So, if that old model is so clearly broken, what does the new blueprint look like? Well, this brings us to Payments Modernization 3.0. And let me be clear, this isn't just an upgrade. It is a completely new way of thinking about the problem.
At its core, Payments 3.0 is a strategy to finally break free from those old constraints. It's all about using standardized cloud-based services, what the industry calls Payments as a Service, or PaaS, and designing everything with an API-first mindset. The goal is really simple. Enable constant innovation while slashing that crippling maintenance spending we saw earlier.
Let's just put it side by side. The old way, Payments 2.0, was all about building one giant, inflexible system on-premise that you basically customized into a corner. The new way is about composing your solutions from flexible, managed services. It's like shifting from trying to build a fortress to building with Legos. Much more flexible, much faster.
So, how does this new approach actually work in practice? Well, it's a practical blueprint, and it's built on 4 core principles.
Think of these as the 4 pillars that deliver the agility and efficiency that old 2.0 model could never dream of. And together, they directly attack the reasons for that 73% failure rate. So let's break them down. It's all about separating what we call the edge from the core, designing everything as API first, building it all to be cloud native, and enabling your teams with low-code platforms.
First up, separating the edge and the core. Honestly, this is genius in its simplicity. You let a standardized service, a SaaS solution, handle the core, commoditized processing, all the heavy lifting, the plumbing. This directly solves that problem of over-customization. It frees up your resources to focus on the edge, the unique customer-facing features that actually make you different in the market. Second, an API-first approach. This means instead of treating integration like an afterthought, you design your systems to connect seamlessly from day one. This just collapses those long development cycles by making it dead simple to partner with fintechs or connect to new payment networks. It's how you go from being a closed system to an open player in the wider financial ecosystem.
Third, you have to fully embrace cloud-native technology. This means moving away from buying and managing racks of physical servers, which directly attacks that 80% maintenance cost we talked about. A true cloud-native system automatically scales with demand, has reliability built right in, and lets you deploy new features in weeks, not years, completely bypassing those old vendor bottlenecks.
And finally, the fourth principle, low-code enablement. This tackles that critical skills gap head-on. It gives power to the people who actually understand the business, your product managers, your compliance officers, to configure and adapt payment flows themselves, without having to write a ton of code. This dramatically speeds up how quickly you can respond to market changes or new regulations.
So we've laid out the problem. We've walked through the blueprint for the solution. So what does this all mean strategically? Where's the industry actually going?
Well, the verdict is pretty much in. 92%. That's the number of financial institutions that are already actively moving toward a payments-as-a-service model, which, as you know, is a core part of the 3.0 strategy. This isn't some trend on the horizon. It is happening right now. The risk is no longer in adopting this new model, but in being left behind by it.
So, to wrap it all up, this shift to an agile, component-based, cloud-native approach, it's really not a question of if anymore. It's a question of when. The strategic blueprint is clear, and as we've just seen, the industry is already on the move. The board is set for the future of payments. The only question left is, what